Alright, so here's this week's weekly Witch Queen campaign mission. It's the last chance. I'm doing a solo flawless master run. Togetherness is the weekly modifier this week. That goes for the Nightfall as well, which is the Fallen Saber. I will be doing that in the coming days, so feel free to turn on those notifications, sub to the channel, comment. I'm always trying to engage with people as much as I can in the comment section, and I am trying to grow this channel, so that would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, as far as this Nightfall goes, this is one of the campaign mission goes. It's one of the longer ones. It's the second to last campaign mission before going to defeat Savathun. And it could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes on average, I would say, if you're not trying to speed run it, and if you're just, killing all the champions and taking each encounter as they come. So I decided to go with my Stagrift Warlock build on Arc. Which I've actually been doing a lot of that this season. I've got quite a few videos up where I've been using Stag on Arc Warlock. In fact, I think it's the only exotic I've used all season on Arc Warlock. Part of that is because Arc 3.0 kind of shafted Warlocks in general. They're supers. They have like the weakest supers out of all the classes and subclasses. Unless you're enhancing them somehow with exotics and whatnot. But just at face value, Chaos Reach is like, it's like worth one rocket. And Stormcaller is okay. It's just a roaming super, so there's nothing to write home about there. And then other than that, the aspects that they got, it's supposed to favor ionic trace production to a degree, but it means giving up a lot of damage potential. So so I've found that the best role for Arc Warlock for me this season has just been either a support role if I'm playing in a team, or just survivability if I'm playing solo, and I can do both of those things with the Stag. Now, of course, the Stag is not subclass specific. It's kind of a universal exotic. You could use it with any class. Solar, Void, Stasis. I don't know about Stasis because I don't have Stasis on my Warlock. But it works particularly well. It synergizes well with Arc because you've got Arc Souls. I guess you could say the same thing about Void if you're using Child of the Old Gods, but then you're giving up your crazy Vortex grenades with Echo of Undermining. So, but yeah, Arc Souls is kind of what Warlock's got going for it for Stormcaller. And they're about to be buffed in a week next season, I believe, and a big buff at that. Like, apparently they've already buffed Arc Soul damage once this season, and then it's getting like a massive buff next season, which is in a week. So this is kind of a fitting video to put up right before the new season comes out. We'll see. You can see what Arc Souls are doing a week before the season launches, and then I'll put up a video shortly after the new season launches, and we'll see how crazy they get. But basically the thing is with Arc Souls is once you get amplified, then your Arc Souls do more damage, and you get amplified from, I believe, Electrostatic Mind or Lethal Current. I can't remember the other aspect. I know Electrostatic Mind is one of them, but you would have seen at the beginning when I show all the aspects and fragments and abilities and mods and weapons. So if you could just go back to the beginning and check, pause on the aspects, but one of them makes you amplified every time you get an ionic trace. So how am I getting ionic traces? Well, I believe that's through electrostatic mind, which is so anytime I get arc ability kills, it's gonna give me an ionic trace. Anytime I kill a blinded enemy, I get an ionic trace. Anytime I kill a jolted enemy, I get an ionic trace. So I went with all of the above to see if I can maximize my ionic trace production potential. Now, the blinding is kind of the only real head scratcher out of all that. It's because in order to blind enemies, it means you're sacrificing just killing them outright with big damage, and instead you're just blinding them and then killing them. But it's not necessarily as black and white as that, because the radius on a blinding grenade is larger than, say, a pulse grenade. So, and I'm using Spark of Shock, so my flashbang grenades are going to be jolting targets that it hits anyways, which is going to cause a chain reaction and kill a bunch of enemies just from Spark of Shock. Like, it's a massive difference. If you don't use Spark of Shock on a flashbang, you're hardly going to get any kills with it. You're just going to have blinded targets all over the place. But the thing is, if there's a whole bunch of ads in one area, the flashbang, yeah, it's gonna kill a certain amount of enemies within a certain radius. Basically just from the jolting and the chain reaction. But then whatever it doesn't kill that's inside the radius of the flashbang is going to be blinded. So it's killing jolted targets and it's blinding whatever's left over. So then I can just kill the rest of the stuff that's left over, and that's also going to give me ionic traces. And that means that with Stormcaller, you don't need Spark of Ions. Like typically, if you're using your Touch of Thunder, Storm Grenade build with Titan, you're typically using Spark of Ions because you're jolting targets all over the place from your overpowered grenades. You want to be getting ionic traces for doing so, because that's just going to play right back into your grenade ability regeneration and give you more grenades and more jolting and more ionic traces, and it's just a better loop all around. But with Stormcaller, you don't need it if you have the aspect electrostatic mind. I'm like 90% sure that's the right aspect that I'm talking about. Because that intrinsically gives you ionic traces for killing jolted, blinded, or ability kills. And I don't believe that you can stack ionic trace production. Like, you can't have it in the aspect. If you put Spark of Ions on, you're not going to get 2 ionic traces for killing a jolted target. I don't think that's how it works. But I'm not sure. I haven't tested it. But what I've heard is that ionic traces are on a cooldown, so you can only get a maximum of 1 ionic trace every few seconds or so. So you don't want to be trying to stack your ionic trace production. Don't use Spark of Ions, it's just a waste. Instead, look for more ways of getting ions at different times. So Electrostatic Mind is great for that, because that's telling you can kill blinded targets to get some, you can kill jolted, and you can just outright kill them with your abilities. So you got a few different ways that you can get ionic traces at different times, which, you know, it's irrespective of the cooldown, because you're getting them at different times. You're not trying to stack, so you're not wasting a fragment there, which means that you can use a different fragment. And so I've played around a lot with Warlock, with using different fragments like Spark of Beacons if I have an arc special weapon, which is pretty cool. Whenever you get amplified, and you kill a target with your special arc weapon, it causes a flashbang. It causes a blinding explosion, which is the same thing as throwing a flashbang. This time though, I'm not using an arc special weapon, so I went with there's also another fragment where you can get ionic traces for getting arc weapon kills, which is a really good one too. That would synergize well with this build. That would give you just yet another way to get traces. But I'm not consistently using an arc weapon. Like, I have my arc sword, and that's it. So I went with gosh, I can't even remember what it's called. Go back and check though. It's the one, it gives you plus 10 intellect, and if you kill blinded targets with precision damage, it causes a blinding explosion. So I wanted to test this out because it sounds pretty good, especially given the fact that my main weapon focus for this mission was Wish Ender, which is easy crits. Like, bows have insane aim assist on controller. It's just super easy to, you can be aimed way off target and you're still going to be landing headshots. So I figured, well, I'll just go in, I'll throw my flashbang, whatever's not killed from the flashbang and the Spark of Shock Jolt is going to be blinded, and then I can just headshot some ads that are blinded and see what happens. Is it really going to be good or not? Well, I'm not sure how often it procced in this run, but I definitely noticed when it did proc. It's just like Spark of Beacons. It's the exact same thing. But interestingly, it I think it's like the blinding explosion, like how it's coded in the game, seems to be a flashbang exactly, because it benefited from Spark of Shock. When I headshot a blinded target, it causes jolt. See right there? There was a target next to the knight. The knight was blinded. I headshot him, and it jolted to the ad next to him, and the unstoppable. I don't think it killed the unstoppable outright, but it wasn't a super clear example right there, but that was pretty good timing. Yeah, so pay attention to that. Try it out for yourself. It's actually really good, especially if you're using a bow as your primary weapon. That it just does crazy crit damage, or super easy to get crit damage with. So this was kind of my strat here, with the build crafting, and I think it paid off in the end. I mean, obviously I finished the mission and everything, and I did it in good time. This might have been my quickest run. But part of the inspiration for coming up with this build was Wish Ender itself, because I actually just had a friend help me get it yesterday. Because I only really started playing Destiny 2 when Witch Queen came out, so there is still quite a few things in the game that I don't have. Like, I don't have Divinity, I didn't have Wish Ender as of yesterday. I still don't have the Gjallarhorn Catalyst. I still don't have the Exotic Sparrow, always on time. I still don't have Collective Obligation, even though I've been farming the heck out of Rolk checkpoints and Battle of the Disciple. But anyway, so there's quite a few good exotics and things in the game that I don't have that I've been meaning to get. And now that it's the end of the season, I was kind of just... this whole past week and a half of just... outside of creating the content, the weekly content that I've been doing with the Nightfalls and the Witch Queen missions, I've just been kind of scratching my head at what to do in the game. Like, there's nothing really to do. I mean, yeah. But so I just got on and I decided to play Shadowkeep, and maybe that would progress me towards getting Divinity and an Assassin's Cowl for my Hunter. because I still don't have one of those, which is part of why I haven't played much Arc Hunter at all this season. Just because I don't have a safe, survivable build for Arc Strider. Because apparently the only aspects and abilities that Arc Strider gets is melee based, which I'm not a huge fan of. Like I main a Titan, so I mean I know about melee based combat, but even Titan has plenty of options to fight outside of, you know, melee. So yeah, I'm just a little unsure about that. But anyways, we both needed Wish Ender, so we hopped into Shattered Throne, and we beat it once. Then we looked up how to do how to get the bow with the cleansing the orbs and going through the encounters and stuff. I basically got carried the whole time, which, you know, thanks to my buddy. But yeah, so I got the bow. It freaking looks awesome with that carving in the bow of the knight with the sword when you charge it up, and the sound of it and everything, and the fact that it looks like a centuries old longbow, like 6 foot tall longbow. It's crazy. I love it. I've really been wanting it, so I was super happy to get it. And so this is the very next day I'm hopping into making some content with it, because there's some barriers to shoot, and it's got intrinsic anti-barrier. So I figured I'd play into it even more with that fragment that I'm talking about, where you get blinding explosions on crits if the target's already blinded. So it can be a little bit tricky to proc, but I'm using flashbangs. So like I said, whatever's not killed by the flashbang and is blinded, then I have an opportunity to create another blinding explosion. So yeah, and then other than Wish Ender, I just decided to use weapons that I'm working on leveling up, because that's basically what I've been doing the last couple weeks. Because like I said, I just kind of scratched my head at what to do in the game outside of content. Well, I could be working on leveling my weapons. Yeah, it's really boring to do, to just go around and kill easy stuff. It's not really fun, but yeah, so at least this, to me, even though I don't have the novelty of using my best weapons to do a solo flawless master run, you know, with double enhanced perks and everything, at least I'm having fun doing the mission, and I'm also leveling up my weapons. Even though it's not the most efficient way to level them up, there's definitely faster ways. At least I'm having fun doing it, because I do enjoy doing making this content. Like, if it wasn't for making the content and putting them out there, and I've seen a lot of positive feedback from people that are watching them, like these videos seem to do well for the limited amount of subscribers I have, and the exposure that these videos get. I'm actually getting a really positive feedback on them, which is awesome, because that inspires me to make more of them. And I take more pride in doing them. So, like, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be doing these every week. Like, this is the third or fourth last chance that I've done solo flawless on. You know, that could get stale pretty quick, but it is still quite a challenging mission. And there's various ways that you can go about beating the mission. And then I've noticed too, like, once you do them 2-3 times, then it's so much easier. Like, well, that goes without saying. Obviously, that goes with anything in life. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you understand it, the more knowledge you get. Not just skill, not just you know, game sense and knowledge. Like, you get all of that. And yeah, so you end up having to put less effort into it and you get more reward. Like I put less effort into this, meaning I failed it much less. You know, I had a couple stupid deaths just when I was like trying out my weapons and the build and how it all works. You know, usually it takes me like mess around for half an hour or whatever, get myself comfortable with the build and the subclass, because I change subclasses and builds frequently. You kind of need like a little warm up. At least I do. But yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, I am. So I'm leveling up my BXR Battler. It's already at like level 12 or 13 or something. And my both of my Dares of Eternity swords that I've had for a long time, I just haven't used them. Because anytime I use one of these swords, I just use my my random roll with Eager Edge, and then I just fly around the map on King's Fall with it, or Vow the Disciple. Like, those are the only places I use these types of swords, and it's just for the utility of Eager Edge. But yeah, I don't have Eager Edge on these newly crafted swords, so gotta level them up somewhere. So I'm doing it here and kind of experimenting with it a little bit. And I've noticed, like on this arc one, the chain reaction on it is pretty insane. I don't even have chain reaction on it, but I've messed around with one that does, and it's, I don't know if that requires giving up Eager Edge, but it seems like that would be a really good perk on it, because it is, like, swords are useful weapons. I mean, it's like, outside of Lament and your Vortex frame swords, like, swords just in general are very good weapons. And even this thing on Master Content was very good at ad clear, very good at knocking out the yellow bar arc shielded knights. Even the champions, like, if I can get a stun on an unstoppable, I can sword it to death after without having to stun it again. Even with this sword. So yeah, so I'll definitely try using it more and figure out the combos on it. Like, I don't even know what the best way is to do combat with it. As you can tell, there's, yeah, like, I miss half my swings. But the one benefit that I did have going into this with this low level newly crafted sword is, at level 1 I crafted it with Unrelenting, and Togetherness is the modifier. So whenever Togetherness is the modifier, you have to have a build, a loadout that is going to heal you somehow, because you have no recovery. Which also means that you don't, like, if you're not on Warlock and you're not using your class ability, you don't need recovery at all because it's useless. Which does give you a little bit of creativity with your build if you can afford it. But obviously this whole build is built around my Stag Rift. Damage resistance while standing in a rift. And I'll be healing at the same time, so yeah, I have tier 10 recovery, of course. And I've got my healing rift, of course. But it is good to have some sort of way to heal too when I'm outside of my rift. Because even with tier 10 recovery and getting ionic traces as much as I am, you know, usually I can have my rift on demand, but I still need to move. I still need to move around the map. I gotta step outside of my rift every now and then. So if I get critical when I'm outside of my rift, it's good to have another option. So what are my options? I've got Innervation on picking up Orbs of Power. So those give me a chunk of healing. And then I've got Unrelenting on my sword. So like a good example of having to step outside my rift would be to go finish off a chunky enemy like an unstoppable or whatever. I gotta go outside of my rift and sword it because it's not coming to me. Well, the good news is, even though I might take a bit of damage while leaving my rift and getting shot by the enemy or all the ads, I'll be quickly getting kills with the sword, which is going to heal me, and then I can get back to my rift. And be picking up orbs too, because I'm picking up orbs from where I'm creating orbs from Harmonic Siphon and Kinetic Siphon. So my Wish Ender is making orbs that are, you know, sitting around at range usually, and then my sword is making orbs that I'm instantly picking up because it's creating orbs right there on the spot. So I think that's pretty much that was pretty much my my build as far as it goes, as far as healing goes. Healing Rift, Innervation, Unrelenting on the sword. And then, of course, the flashbangs are really good for crowd control. And this section here, so everything up to this point is pretty straightforward. But once you get to this section here, then you've got to do 3 rooms with following this witch around. So for each of her bars of health, you'll be in 1 room. First room, there's going to be an Unstoppable. There's a bunch of yellow bar Arc Shielded Knights, bunch of ads. There's going to be Exploder Thralls. There's Thrall. And one of the modifiers for this mission this week is I can't remember what it's called, but Exploder units have more health. So yeah, this room can get really crazy. I've died plenty of times here. Like, I almost died right there. My rift ran out just in time for the Unstoppable to start damaging me again. I don't think I even have Void Resistance on. And that's pretty much the only enemy that's going to be doing void damage to you, and their laser blast is pretty deadly. Even with Stag Rift, the Unstoppable can kill me. There's not much as far as like a single target goes that can kill me while standing in a Stag Rift, like outside of Grandmasters. Even the Lightbearer warriors with their suppression grenades and their sentinel shield tosses, I could even withstand those in a Stag Rift. Maybe not 2 shields in a row, but yeah, Stag Rift is pretty crazy. And I've been playing Stag Rift almost exclusively on Stormcaller this whole season, because even outside of doing the solo content, it's so good in Grandmasters. Like, I think I put up one video where I did a Grandmaster just with people on LFG. Nobody was on mic, and I was the only one that didn't die the whole Nightfall. And I was just playing that support role, being the one that can stay alive, being the one that can go and revive teammates, especially with a glaive. That's what I was doing it with on GM, was Stag Rift with a glaive, and I was basically invincible if I was playing it correctly, and I was able to go and res my teammates multiple times. So and then the flashbangs too, they're not always the best choice for a grenade, but for ad dense missions, having somebody that can do crowd control is very useful. Especially with, chances are you're going to be like with some Touch of Thunder Storm Titans anyways. And the last thing you need is a dinky Warlock pulse grenade when you've got 2 storm grenades roaming around the map just annihilating everything. So at least with a flashbang, you're providing something. you know, crowd control, because your pulse grenade is really not going to do much, like, compared to everything else. But it does work for solo content as well, like I'm showing you right here. But it's very build specific. Like, I wouldn't use flashbangs on anything else really. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's lots of utility to flashbangs, and there's lots of builds that it can synergize with. Even Touch of Thunder enhances flashbang grenades, so there's that. I just haven't tried it yet because I mean, storm grenades are just obviously the best grenade that there is for Titan, and even Touch of Thunder pulse grenades are insane with the ionic trace production. So but it would be kind of interesting to try out like a melee based build on Titan with flashbangs, because if you can blind enemies and then get up close and personal, you know, that's good. It's a good thing to have. If you have to get up into waves of enemies to do melee damage or sword damage, you know, or 1-2 punch hunter, even having the enemies blinded first is a big bonus. And it's a short cooldown too. It's like 1:45 or something, which is one of the shortest cooldowns for arc grenades. But so this is the last room. The first room has the unstoppable. The second room has the anti-barrier. So you gotta watch out for that. Just make sure you always got your rift ready to go, or whatever method you're using to heal. I probably could have chaos reached the boss here a bit sooner, but I think I was just kind of scoping out the battlefield, making sure there wasn't any other champions left standing, and then finish her off. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that gameplay. If you did, yeah, let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.
Bravery inspires sacrifice, and sacrifice.
That was Savathun, all right. But what does that mean?
This is the evidence we've been seeking all along. Ikora's instincts were correct after all.